Hello and welcome to round 2 of the Parenting Roundabout podcast. I'm Catherine Haleko and I'm here with Terri Morrow. Say hi, Terri.
Hello.
Usually on this podcast, we talk about parenting issues, but once a week, Terri and I like to get together to discuss TV, movies, books, and other entertainment topics because it's nice to talk about something other than parenting for a change. This week, we will cover an episode of The West Wing along with the West Wing Weekly podcast.
Yes. And
we will get back to our challenge rounds because Terri read the book I've been dying for her to read. I'm so excited. So we'll do that. But first, we're going to take a quick stop at Master of None. We're up to episode 6 of season 2. And this one was called New York, I Love You.
Okay. So what did you think of this one, Catherine?
You know, I didn't like it as much as I thought I was going to like it. I liked it. I definitely liked it. And it was so unique, the way that it really didn't feature the main characters that we've come to know at all, just a tiny, tiny bit. And it was mostly like other characters, just random people in New York, and kind of following different them groups for a short time. And I think I was like missing the people as soon as they were gone. I was like, but I wanted to wait. What? But what happened to that guy? Like I got hung up on missing the people as soon as they were gone.
I don't know. I really enjoyed it. I liked it a lot, and I felt like it was just about the right amount of time with those people. I did kind of worry that the doorman was going to get fired because of the jerk. His clothes were getting thrown outside. But I felt like the vignettes were just about the right length. I liked it. And I liked that they came all together in the theater at the end. I thought that was really nice. I loved the whole segment with the deaf woman being completely silent. I thought that was awesome. And just queued up so nicely so that when, as their cab drives away and then the girls close the door and with that thunk, the sound's back on. That was really nicely done. I thought that was very clever. I don't know that I necessarily buy them having that conversation in the store, even in sign, but... Right. But I did like that they had the
profane conversation, let's just say.
I just don't see anybody having that conversation out in public, even if they think nobody can understand them. But I did enjoy that the lady came up and said, other people understand ASL.
Right. And then her kids were running through the store making a sign that she was really wishing they didn't know.
So that was... I really appreciated that, and I thought that was very cool. And the other ones I thought were all very interesting, and I liked getting that little peek into people and being unsure right at the beginning who we were going to be following at this particular time, and then it becoming clear. So I thought it was cool, and I thought it was just the right amount and a nice little patchwork of different people.
Yeah, it was a really nice choice to include a person who was deaf and to make it completely silent.
That is a very cool idea.
Yeah, and just showing sort of the diversity of New York and the people who are not usually in a TV show.
Right.
Just reminding you, like, hey, these people have a whole life as well.
That is true.
Let's not forget.
I don't know if in the interest of that diversity, if this was on purpose, but I noticed that pretty much the job of white people in this episode was to be incredible jerks.
Like
every
clueless.
time they were clueless, or they were obnoxious, or they were jerks, or they were giving away the ending of a movie. And as I'm okay. I guess I can't complain about that, but maybe I bet jerks are diverse also.
Right. This is true.
I bet there's a diversity in jerkiness in New York City. In fact, I'm certain of it. But okay, it was. I liked seeing the different groups and stuff, and that was very fun. I think if it was a show that had a much more conventional structure, it would have bothered me to have this one thrown in. But since this season has just been mini movies, basically, they've just really been short films, a series of short films. This one I found really fun and cleverly done. Nicely worked out. And I want to know if they got Nicolas Cage to say that line at the end, or they just found somebody who does a passable imitation of Nicolas Cage.
Well, I listened to the entire Making the Sausage podcast about voice. Oh,
did you? I got to start listening to that again.
Yeah, so they had a whole one about voiceover or voice actors, and they talked about how there are voice actors out there who can imitate other people's voices. Yes.
And Cage is an easy one, and that was a very exaggeratedly Nicolas Cage delivered voice line. Because you don't see anything, so you had to be able to hear it to fulfill what you had learned in the cab. But poor guy.
I thought that was really fascinating. The cab drivers living in this apartment, 4 or more squeezed into this little apartment, and using a curtain to cover like the pass-through half wall between the kitchen and the dining room or whatever that was. Just how they are so squeezed in there, and that's the way people live, but you never see it.
And I liked how he was speaking in his language in the cab, and the girls couldn't hear what he was saying, especially coming right after the ASL one. It's like this whole other world going on that other people have no realization that it's even what's even being said or being done. So that was nicely done.
And I happened to have the closed caption turned on, and it said, like, speaking in Rwandan language or something. Like, it was a specific African language that was actually identified
that was cool.
in the thing. So
very, very nice. I mean, I wouldn't mind, I think within the parameters of this show, this episode, it was just the right amount. But I would watch a series on any one of those groups of people, pretty much.
Yeah, they were all
interesting. Some sitcoms, but just really nicely done. A really nice idea. So
yes,
good
on you there, Aziz. I'm sorry.
I didn't even work while I watched it. I just sat and watched it. So that's
good for you.
High praise these days.
That is
for me.
Absolutely.
It caught my attention.
Well, good. So we watched that. So then we should maybe move on to The West Wing.
Yeah.
This week's episode was night 5.
Yeah. I was remembering this episode fondly because I was mostly remembering the bit between Stanley and Bartlett, which I had enjoyed again, although it doesn't really get good until it's over. But still, I sort of enjoyed the sparring. I had forgotten that this was the episode with Celia, the temp. And I had forgotten it was the episode with Toby and Andy and They'll Like Us When We Win. Those subplots were not amongst the best that West Wing has had to offer. And they, this was a period of time in which I was following the Television Without Pity boards on the show. And as you can imagine, some of that stuff was not well received.
Yeah.
So
I mean, starting with you have to suspend your disbelief that somebody who's working in a job for a week would speak up like that. Which, okay, maybe, but that's where it already started to break down for me.
Yeah. So that, many things about that. But I did like the main plot a lot. And also there was also the thing about Donna getting offered this fabulous job, which I don't necessarily buy. But then, oh my gosh, why wouldn't you have just taken it? Hey, you can date Josh if you take this job, girl.
Yeah.
He won't be your boss anymore. And you'll be making way more money. And you will not be...
you should have made that point to her.
You will not... Well, then she would have left. No, you would not be taken for granted as much as you are. I do like the subplot with CJ and the reporter, even though it ends so tragically. But, the fact that she... Although... Again, the way she spoke to the guy in Leo's office, I think this was all this and The Woman of Kumar and another thing that's coming up, I think is setting up some stuff that happens at the end of the season. Her sort of acting very bluntly and emotionally about something, and rather than a politically smart way of dealing with things.
Right, because we know, obviously, she's extremely intelligent and she knows how to be diplomatic.
Yeah.
You know, that's her whole job.
When we get there, we will evaluate how this all led to it. I don't think I noticed it the first time, but now that I know what's coming, I'm thinking, yeah, this is possibly why she's acting like this, which does not make me like it more. It makes me feel that it's plot mechanical more. So I did not have any of the problems with the main plot that Joshua Malina did on the podcast, although I can certainly see his points. But this was one of those things where I'm going to let the art wash over me. I enjoyed the whole thing at the beginning where everybody's asked him if he saw anybody on the plane, and wouldn't he know where he was going, and why he wouldn't tell anybody anyway, and why would they lie to him, and all this. It's, okay, you don't want to pull the threads, but I still just enjoyed it because I enjoy Adam Arkin in anything, and I enjoy him as that character. And I felt that a lot of it was just kind of sparring and feeling him out and, figuring out an approach and then going for it. So, although I would like to see their next session.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
That would be entertaining. Yeah. It's great how he can, he can treat him as, you're my patient and this is how it works. I really don't care if you're the president. But he needs to hear that. And also, it's your money, it's about to be my money, and I sleep just fine. That line. I think we've all felt the need to deliver that line to people from time to time. A variation of it, though we do not make what he makes. But yeah, no $350 an hour, or whatever it was. Yeah, unfortunately. But it's interesting because the first time we saw him, he was working with Josh, and he knew exactly what was going on. He had all the answers before they were even given to him, and so and once he got the breakthrough, it's like, okay, that's it. Let me give you the card for somebody else. And in this, he was plunged in much more like, a much more difficult patient and a situation that's not necessarily what he does every day. So I liked it. I liked that part. I could have fast forwarded through the rest. And Sam really is kind of a problematical character, isn't he? He did not handle any of that well. Lately,
and he does say inappropriate things. Well, I mean, lately, but the first episode, he was,
well, that's
he
true.
accidentally slept with a call girl. So,
you're right.
Did you trip over something? Says Toby.
Oh dear. Yes, no, you're right.
Yeah, he's often saying things that are not what one would say in his position, I think.
No,
and
true.
Certainly Ainsley can handle anything he dishes out, but I mean, I guess I could see somebody feeling uncomfortable with it, but boy, would they not speak up that way. And I thought it was very interesting that they had all the three lawyers who work with this sort of thing all saying that probably would not meet the standard.
On the podcast.
Yes, exactly. That's right. On the podcast, they had them all. And then, then they start giving examples of what would actually be considered sexual harassment. And it's like, yeah, this is not that. So.
Yeah, I thought that was great. A great way to look at the topic.
Yes.
To get those people on.
Right. Without minimizing the inappropriateness of it.
Yeah.
Mentioning that, getting caught up in this stuff makes it harder to get the stuff that's real. It wastes time and resources. So Celia just needs to calm down and, find those reports or whatever it is she's there to do.
And who was that? Somebody I should have recognized?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I think they mentioned. Did they mention where she had been seen? I think Joshua Malina had worked with her on something and mentioned who she is. Okay. But I don't know. I didn't recognize her. I don't think. Other than
she's just another one of those looks sort of familiar.
Yes,
not sure why kind of person.
Probably in a bunch of shows you see in not major parts.
Yes, exactly.
So, my husband and I saw somebody in a show the other night, and she looked familiar to both of us. And so I looked her up on IMDb, and it's like her roles. She was like, in that episode we were watching, her role was moderator. And then she has a whole list of things like barmaid, coat check girl, reporter. So it's like she hasn't even gotten up to the point in her career where her character has a name. She's just a function. But she did very well. But she looked so familiar to us. But it's like, obviously, she looks like somebody else we've seen. And that may be the case here, too. So that, I mean, I, on the whole, enjoyed the episode. And although parts of it were a little cringy.
Agreed.
Yes. But speaking of a little cringy, we should also mention that.
I know where you're going.
Yes. When we first talked about Battle of the Network Stars, I think we suggested that we would not watch it again until Joshua Malina was on, in the hopes that he might be able to bring some snark to the proceedings that would at least make it a little enjoyable. And indeed, he was on this past week, and we watched it, so we feel like we should say a few words about it. And I will say it was substantially better than the very, very sad first episode we watched with the TV kids and the TV sitcoms. Mostly because most of these people still have a career. And I mean, Corbin Burnson was on Psych not that long ago, so I don't know what he's up to now. By the looks of him, he has a cabin somewhere and has been fishing a lot. But
yeah. He's at the David Letterman school of
yes, exactly. It's like you look at him
facial hair
and you think, did they ask him if he would like to shave and spruce up a little for the camera, or did they tell him, Corbin, could you come here looking as scraggly as possible?
Please look grizzled. Thank you very much.
And I mean, and he did very well, He was one of the better athletes of the two groups, but he just looked like they picked up a rock and said, Mr. Burnson, it's your cue. But other than that, they were all from more or less current shows. I don't know what Mary McCormick is doing now, but her show wasn't all that long ago. And it was. I enjoyed having Marlee Matlin on it. I especially enjoyed her trash talking through her interpreter as she was sitting on the dunk chair and he was standing on the deck, saying rude things to the guy who had the ball.
To the guy right next to him who had the ball.
And I'm thinking, that guy's got that interpreter has a fun job.
At least
I've seen him before. Yes. So that was fun.
And it was TV White House versus TV lawyers.
Although, yes, I think Joshua Malina is currently portraying a lawyer in a White House drama, so he could have actually been on either team.
I know, he could have been. They really barely mentioned Scandal at all.
I thought that was so funny, because they mentioned, like at the beginning, they mentioned West Wing and Sports Night. And yes, I remember you fondly from Sports Night, but most wouldn't people Scandal be sort of more apropos to the current theme? And they did finally mention it. But so it was generally sort of a younger group and a less has-been group, and not necessarily a particularly athletic group, but it was, I think it was certainly less sad. And I felt that Joshua Malina did bring the sort of self-deprecating humor that I look to him for. A little bit of snark, too. But it's
I agree.
Less snark than expected, just because I think he was just genuinely, in a very human way, psyched to be there. He seemed like this is something that he remembered from when he was younger. And hey, I'm at a point in my career now where they asked me to do it. Okay.
They asked me to do it. Sweet.
I'm going to do it. Exactly. And I'm going to care about it. So that was kind of cute. Although I think I'm going to call BS on the number of people who claim to have watched this when they were growing up, when clearly they were like in their 20s. Or at most teenagers. They were not 6 years old watching this and saying, one day, Mommy, I want to do that. When Corbin Burnson was talking about watching Farrah Fawcett, and I'm thinking, dude, you must have been like in your 20s when you were doing that.
You can't be that much younger than Farrah Fawcett.
So I think they need to soft pedal on that a little bit. But
and also because they need to get people interested in it for now.
Yes.
You know, like they cannot hang the whole entire thing on nostalgia.
Especially since it's not as good as it was then.
Right.
It really should. You know, I was thinking about something, though, and I think this may be why it's not as good and it's never going to be as good, and it was probably a bad idea to bring it back. That show was on originally at a time when access to celebrities was not that much. You saw them every week on their TV show, but you didn't really know that much about them. Maybe you read a gossip rag or something like that, but you didn't know that. So seeing them in a different context was really thrilling. Hey, this is what they're like in real life, you know, as real life is a reality. But now everybody's on Twitter, everybody's on Instagram. You're constantly bombarded with what these people are like in real life. And you're go back to your TV show and be your character. I want you to be your character. Shut up on Twitter. So, it's like, you don't get that same thrill of, wow, this is that person I've only seen as a character. And now I get to see what they're like. It's like, oh, this guy, basically.
I think that's really a good point.
I think they maybe need to think that through a little more. But it didn't make me feel like I want to watch this every week now. But it definitely made me feel that if I see somebody interesting, I'll watch it. If I see somebody that I might enjoy seeing, I'll check it out. Right. But still continues to be a very, very, very pale copy of the original, and very that's a hard word to say. Very problematic.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, then let's move on to something that is not problematic at all, at least in my opinion. A wonderful book called The Royal We, which I challenge you to read.
Yes.
It is by Heather Cox and Jessica Morgan, who are also known as the Fug Girls from GoFugYourself.com.
Yes.
And it is just so much fun. I think it's a romance, but it is not at all dumb. It is really smartly written, I think, and it's just a great read. So what did you think?
I thought that it was a great read. I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed the characters. I enjoyed the writing. I think it could have been about 200 pages shorter.
It is pretty long.
It is. It's like 450 pages, right? I was reading it on my phone, so it was like 7,598 pages, but I'm guessing it wasn't really that many. But I think I saw it on Amazon or something. It's like 450 pages? Is that what the actual physical copy is?
I don't know because I have only read it on electronically also, so I'm not quite sure.
It's long. It is long. It does go on, and it's enjoyable, and like I said, I like the characters, I like the writing, but it reminded me of when my husband and I watch procedurals. Usually we watch them on our DVR, so you can check and see how much time is left. And you know that if they catch somebody and you're only 30 to 40 minutes in, there's going to be another few twists. So it's like sometimes I'll be watching and it's like I'm tired of the storyline. I'm like, check and see how far we are in. Is this going to be it, or is there going to be more nonsense? And with this book, I got to a point where I thought, okay, I see we've got a clear path to the end. You know, I think it was when they got back together after the 2 years off, and he proposed to her. And I thought, okay, there's a couple of secrets hanging over. I see that's going to be a problem. But now we're going to be heading towards the end. And then I looked and it was like at 62%. And I'm like, oh my gosh. I am ready to be at the 55-minute mark, and I am at the 30-minute mark. So, and then there was another secret on top of everything else. Really? Another secret? So I felt there were more twists than I personally needed. I can understand if you really liked it and you did not want to be parted from these characters, you would be happy to read as many hundreds of pages of them as you like. Right. I just get together already. And by the time it got to the end, I was thinking, I will be mad if there is not a happy ending. However, I am not sure which ending would be happy. Maybe the happy ending is her saying, forget this. This is not worth the trouble, man. You know, have a nice life. I'm going somewhere. I'm going to an island with my mom. You know, and if it gets to that point, that's a romance where you're thinking maybe happily ever after is not the happy ending here. That's probably a bad sign. But I was glad. I liked the way it ended, except that after 450 pages of twists, you never really get them resolved.
Yeah.
I really wanted to see a scene where they told Marge was the handler, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where they told Marge and she just like went and squished Clive like a bug. I was wanting that scene. I was wanting to say, oh, kids, you're so cute trying to solve your problems by yourself.
Right.
We have trained assassins for this. You just go off on your honeymoon now.
Yeah.
I was looking forward to that scene and it did not come. But I'm just going to imagine that's what happened.
That's what happened.
That Marge and Barnes had a good laugh and then went and just
took care of business.
Suddenly that guy was just gone.
Yeah.
But
that creepy dude.
It was I could have used with like they used to do in books where you would have a list of names somewhere. Because there were, the main characters totally were very memorable, and I had no problem remembering them. They're Oxford friends and family members and that stuff. But then there was like a whole extra layer of people that moved through that I kept forgetting who they were.
Right.
So that would have been helpful. Like, Agatha was the Queen's sister, right? It took me like 3/4 of the book to remember who she was.
I think she was... the Queen's daughter.
The Queen's daughter, and is Edwin the Queen's son?
Yes, and they were the siblings of Nick's father.
Yes. Could.
So,
but the most thinly veiled of all the royal characters, I think.
Yeah.
We don't like Charles very much, do we?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, the whole book, obviously, as we have, I think, explained here before, is sort of a reimagining of the William and Kate story, if Kate were, instead of a British commoner, an American commoner.
Yes.
And in terms of the twists, in terms of the relationship, and also the whole thing of, like, marrying into this family and the incredible... sacrifices that you make when you do this.
Yes. Yeah. I would have liked to have more Nick in the story. I felt like he was constantly just going off and not being there. And
disappearing for long periods of time.
Not that it was unrealistic, just that, I felt like I only really had half of my main couple for long. And I believe if she tells me he's wonderful and I love him, okay.
Right. Well, I mean, that was all part of the...
I guess I'll take your word for it, honey.
You know how it is. We have to keep them apart for a certain amount of time. Now, see, I'm not that
much of a royal watcher or pay attention to of her. Are you into that?
Well, only
because I imagine that would add a layer of enjoyment that I probably was missing.
Only via the Go Fug Yourself website, basically. I mean, I would say before I started reading that site, I would have like a People magazine level of knowledge and interest. So in that way, it's, just fun. Like you said, thinly veiled, this one's Charles, this one's Princess Anne, this one, whichever. Yeah. Although not all of them are.
Okay, so Agatha was the Anne character then.
Correct.
I completely could not figure out who she was. Because the name just kept coming up periodically. And I'm like, who is this again?
Right.
So that would have been nice to have a list of all the various people and their many, many names.
Right. And I feel like at some point, and maybe it was on their website or their publisher website or something, I don't know, they explained how they created like a new branch of the royal family for this book. Like they went back X number of generations and found somebody who died and made it as if that person had lived and then created a whole dynasty from that person. Because they had to be, how much of this is real life and how much of it is a made-up world. Kind of like in The West Wing, it's like September 11th didn't really happen, but they're still affected by it on that show.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Some past presidents were true, some not.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So same here. Like some past royals were really there and some weren't. So, so yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I definitely got involved in it and was turning the pages and was happy to have read it. I enjoyed many, many things about it. I just got a little impatient.
Sure. Yeah.
Towards the late middle. I got a little impatient.
The late middle. Yes. And the ebook comes with a bonus chapter, so
yeah,
as I told you,
that.
You could skip that because that was just more time.
I skimmed it to see if it was going to bring anything new, and it didn't. It was just going over another existing part of the story from somebody else's point of view.
Correct. Right.
And as much as I liked that character, I didn't want to see him being tortured.
Yeah,
which looked like it's probably what it would be.
I reread it upon rereading, and I was sort of sorry that I did.
Yeah, actually, I
just for that reason.
I would like to remember Freddie the way he was in the main manuscript.
Right.
But
exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
He was very likable. I wish Lacey had been more likable. I think they maybe made her just a shade or two too selfish, because she you just want to smack her most of the time.
Right.
I did. Anyway,
I also did quite frequently.
I think that they needed to like just turn the dial a little bit on that character, as they did with Freddie, who is, did many things bad, but still is lovable.
Yes, and the running joke of the women that he runs around with having this most ridiculous names like Santa and Timpani and Tuppence.
Yeah, there were a great many names in this book. This just had an exceptional number of names.
Yes. And some people had 6 or 7 or 8 names.
Exactly. Yes. Yes. I enjoyed the way the character of B came along from being just sort of like somebody you figure you're not going to like at the beginning to being entirely likable in her prickly way at the end.
Exactly. Yeah, she's wonderful.
So, yeah.
So good on you.
So thank you for
Fug Girls
waiting for me slowly to read it.
Yeah.
It helped. I had some insomnia this week, so I just went and read for like 3 or 4 hours because I couldn't sleep. So that helped. That got me over the hump.
Well, thank you for taking it on. And so now we're back with challenge rounds. So that means
our challenge rounds are back.
You're going to give me a challenge.
Yes, I'm going to do a challenge which I may regret, but we're going to watch a movie that I remember enjoying when I watched it the first time. It has generally not been enjoyed by most people, most reviewers and people I've heard talking about it. So it's possible that when I watch it again, I will not like it, but I'm kind of interested too. The movie is called Elizabethtown. It is directed by Cameron Crowe, stars Orlando Bloom and Kirsten Dunst, and a whole bunch of other recognizable people, including, of all people, Paula Deen is in there cooking stuff. So, as a family member. But Susan Sarandon is in it, and lots of interesting people, including the guy who played Brandanowitz on Parks and Rec. So it ties together some of the things we watch.
See, everything is connected.
It may, in fact, be awful. But I enjoyed it. It's one of the movies I hear talked about when the manic pixie dream girl
trope is
brought up. I think this is a Kirsten Dunst character is considered that, and yet I enjoyed it. I enjoyed her. I thought she was very cute. So not offended by it anyway. Good. So we will watch Elizabethtown. It is on Netflix for those who have access to that. I have a dusty copy of the DVD somewhere in my home, but I will probably watch it on Netflix also. So we will see what we think of it after. It will bear some parallels with Chef, which we can discuss further.
Which we watched a couple.
Yes,
I don't know, a while ago.
In the genre of directors who got smacked down expressing themselves in their art.
That's right.
Through characters that make bad choices.
So next week we will watch that. We'll continue with The West Wing, season 3 episode called Hartsfield's Landing.
Hartsfield's Landing is up.
Yes.
Okay.
And then also the next episode of Master of None, which is called Door 3.
Okay.
And that's going to be it for our round 2 today. Please subscribe to our Parenting Roundabout podcast so you won't miss any of our episodes, including our daily speed rounds and weekly group chats. As always, you can find recaps, links, and an opportunity to comment on our website at parentingroundabout.com. Goodbye, Terri.
Goodbye, Catherine.
Bye, everyone.